Are we there? Cool. So we're live. First of all, thank you very much, Mr. Fine, especially that early in the morning for joining us. And for those of you watching live on YouTube, Mr. Fine he launched the only printed magazine covering social media, the Social Media Monthly, and he's also an ACM distinguished speaker. And we are grateful to have you, sir. And the topic of today's talk, as mentioned on the slide as well, is the next cyber warfare wave. This was a highly requested topic. Many of these students of PEC are venturing into cybersecurity, and it's a pleasure to have such an esteemed guest with experience in that field. So the stage is all yours now. Thank you.
Okay, well, Amrit, thank you so much for inviting me. It's a great pleasure. I'm going to put my slides into SlideShare mode, and you know, unless I hear from you, I'll assume everything's going smoothly. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
So, well, everyone, thank you for having me. This is a presentation I put together actually a couple of years ago for a virtual reality conference that took place in Toronto, actually at another university, at Ryerson University. And you know, VR and AR is in its very early stages, but I think this is we and very recently here in the news, you know, there's a huge cyber attack here in the U.S. Affected, you know, hackers got in through the SolarWinds update process, and you know, it's affected many organizations, including the U.S. government and very high departments. But as VR and AR become more prevalent, I think we have to worry about, you know, where are the next attacks coming from, and I think VR, you know, provides some extra, you know, concerns and problems, you know, just because of the nature of the platform. So just a little bit about me. My background is 25 years of engineering and IT. My undergrad degree was in mechanical engineering, but I've also you know, made most of my career as a IT architect, CTO, CIO. Spent a lot of my first half of my career in telecom and wireless. Did a lot of network planning overseas. A lot of my work experience has had a strong overseas component since graduating college. Back in more than 20 years ago, I had a popular website, and this was, you know, if you can believe it, first generation websites on cell phones. 5 years, 6 years before the iPhone came out. And if any of you are familiar with WAP, Wireless Access Protocol, this was a really early iteration. But I had a popular website then called coolwapsiteoftheday.com, and did pretty well with it. And then I also have advanced degrees. I have my master's in environmental science and policy, and all but my dissertation. And for 10 years, from 2000 through 2009, I was the global director of IT for a large conservation nonprofit based here in Washington called Conservation International. And I built out their global IT network in 40 countries over 7 years, and traveled overseas half the time. It's a dream job for a very long time. Enjoyed it quite a bit. But I've been working for myself since 2009, and started in the content media space. So actually early on, I did organized what turned out to be the first social media conference on the East Coast here in Washington. This is 2009. This is early days of Twitter. It's called the Cool Twitter Conference, and did about 25 conferences that year across the US and Canada. And we did one in Dubai as well. I had a book come out at the end of 2010 called Big Book of Social Media Case Studies. Very much to my surprise, it got picked up as a textbook at about 10 universities. And then in 2011, I ended up launching what's still today the only print magazine about social media, called the Social Media Monthly, and ran it for 3 years. We had a distribution in 20 countries. Named one of the 15 hottest magazine launches of 2011. I think one of my biggest highlights is Fortune magazine having really taken a cue from our cover on the left there, which I think is quite a bit better. That was from our second issue. And but today my primary focus is I started an association for the virtual reality and healthcare industry about 2 years ago. Been working in that space for 5 years. And so a lot of this has morphed quite a bit into that. I still actually have these publications that I run on the side. But I don't have a slide here for IVRHA, which is the International Virtual Reality and Healthcare Association. Amrit, at the end of the talk, I can share that link. It's ivra.org if people are interested, IVRHA.org.
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you.
So, getting into the talk, right now, VR, AR, MR, XR, it's all wonderful and roses. Taking off. I was just watching, some of the football playoffs here in the U.S. yesterday, and Oculus was a main commercial provider, and so it's and it had the strongest holiday season this past Christmas. So 2021 is going to be very interesting for VR, and the pandemic, for good or for bad, has been good for VR in a lot of different ways, because it's the need for remote collaboration, remote training. So it's opening up doors. But is everything rosy? What do we have to worry about, really? Or who do we have to worry about? Or whom do we have to worry about? Do we have to worry about this guy?
Right, yeah.
Do we have to worry about this guy?
Oh, man.
Or do we have to worry about these guys?
Yeah, definitely.
Or do we have to worry about him?
Oh, right. Yeah.
So, what concerns should we be thinking about in terms of security for VR and AR? We need to worry about the illegal recording, theft of user behavioral data. This is a highly sensitive concern in healthcare. In the U.S., we have some very strict laws around protection of patient data with a law called HIPAA. And conforming to that is not easy from a technical standpoint, and making sure all that data is kept private and not congregated. And as some of you may know, if you're following this area, Facebook is not everybody's happy with at the moment, because now they're forcing anyone using their headset to have a Facebook account. And they're making it clear that they're collecting user data. And now it's clear that Oculus headset is a commercial device, but for consumers, one of the problems right now is it's the best device on the market, and a lot of enterprise are using it, but it's not really being supported as an enterprise product, and that creates a lot of different problems. Do we need to worry about a ransomware attack, because of that user data, or servers even that are running VR and AR? And misleading information to entice users to take a certain action, phishing schemes. But VR, provides a different approach to this as well. And, maybe it's people giving up their personal or credit card information, as happens today with regular ransomware and phishing attacks. Devices are being taken. Are those devices being taken over remotely while you're in the workplace? You're in a VR session, and is someone there with you, or are they taking over your environment? And this is a big concern during critical maneuvers, whether it's in defense and medicine. Avatar impersonations. I think this is a real issue that we have to start thinking about. Is the individual you're interacting with who you think they are? Is this the future of the 6 o'clock news? Is this the news that we can trust? And this is an example of, I mean, obviously this is South Park, but this could be a more sophisticated news anchor avatar, providing the news and providing, their version of the news. Do we need to be, concerned about a Cambridge Analytica situation on steroids? It's, we're going through a difficult time here in the United States with what happened last week, and we're now, it's 4 years later after, this whole, Russian hacking concerns and Cambridge Analytica and the impact on the 2016 election. And we're finally getting to a new president next week. And do we need to worry about, Big Brother Mark Zuckerberg? I think Zuckerberg has, his heart in the right place, but I think his concern about privacy and user data and forcing everyone to have a Facebook account. And as some of you might be following, the US government and European governments are now opening up cases into, monopolistic behavior of Google and Facebook. And, this could lead to them being split up into smaller companies. So, but if we think back, 25 years to the first version of the web, it's all about hyperlink pages. But in VR, it could be, and I think it will be, hyperlinked worlds. We're already starting to see that. You can call it Web 3.0, 4.0, 5.0. It doesn't really matter, but it is the next iteration. So whether it's AR or VR or whatever R, how do we know it's safe when we traverse worlds, when we go from one virtual environment to another? So let's pretend. I'm in this wonderful science fiction lunarscape virtual environment right now, and I'm going to traverse to a new world. And this is representative of the teleportation to that other world. And yeah, those are pepperoni slices. And now I'm in this new environment. So how do I know it's safe? Well, maybe, just like in a traditional web browser today, there's some visual cues that let us know whether we're in a secure website or not. Maybe visually, around the perimeter of your VR environment, you have a green glowing or a green halo that lets you know you're in a a safe and secure virtual environment. Or maybe it turns red to let us know that we're in a not so safe environment. Or like in a web browser, you know, in the lower corner, we've got a padlock letting us know that this is not secure. Okay, now it is secure. So what are some ways to going about implementing, you know, cybersecurity in VR and AR systems today? It establish secure messaging between devices, establish, you know, private tunnel, especially, and VR meeting collaboration software is starting to come into its own. The last 12 months has seen a lot of growth in this area. Proper identity and authentication mechanisms between agents in VR and AR. Securing VR applications in the firmware on devices. Along, you know, maybe about I think 2 years ago, Oculus put out a firmware update that bricked all of the Rift headsets, and it was you know, a bit of a challenge for them to get past that over a few days. And how do you validate the integrity of the content? How do you know that the content is that you're looking at is real, is not being provided by a third party or a nefarious third party? You know, maybe there's some methods to implement tamper detection. How do you know that someone else maybe has used your headset or has had access to it? And I think this is, you know, where we'll be going quickly, is forcing authentication between devices. But believe it or not, you know, much of this is not in place today. It's a wild, wild west. It's very still early days in VR and AR world and devices. And you want to monitor for abnormal behavior, you know, just as you're monitoring any other IT system for abnormalities. But it's not all bad. 3/4 of respondents said the presence of VR tools increases their likelihood of pursuing cybersecurity careers. So, you know, and it'll be interesting to see the types of security tools that are designed that you use in virtual reality to manage systems. And 3/4 of those people, you know, said they would enjoy a VR-based cybersecurity tool versus a desktop tool. You know, be interesting your own thoughts on that. And that VR would probably increase their ease of use. There's actually a great presentation I can share with you later. An interesting software development company provides a platform for, you know, working for programmers to work among each other on looking at their code. But it allows you to look at the directory structure in a very, very virtual 3-dimensional manner, and looking at files in a very, very different way than you would traditionally. And a large number said it would increase their efficiency. And that's all I have.
Damn, that felt like an ocean in a bucket.
Was that helpful?
Like an ocean in a bucket.
In a bucket in an ocean. or
Yeah. So it's so relevant, especially right now. And so one of the questions popping up is that by when, from your experience, do you think that these things will start to have, especially in the AR and VR worlds, these things will start to have real world impacts? The timeline.
I mean, I think there are people thinking about it now and working on it now, and we actually within IVRHA, within our association, we actually have a nonprofit group called the XRSI, which is a XR cybersecurity initiative. And I'd be happy to make an introduction to Kavya, who's the founder of that, and I think she could provide a great presentation for you as well.
Yes, yes, that'll be great. We can catch up to that later. Also, one more question came up, is that how are security mechanisms in VR any different from the ones that are currently being used by traditional online video games, since they can be thought of as the same with just different controllers?
Yeah, I think that's correct. I don't know though if there's also a communication issue to the end user. The end you're now in a very different you know uh, perspective than you are looking at a PC and a 2D screen, and so you might not even be aware or thinking about, am I in a secure environment? Um, and the thing is, right now, developers just aren't thinking about this too strongly. It's not top of mind. So I mean, as cybersecurity and security is usually an afterthought in development and software. So, and I don't think as unfortunately in life, as many things, people won't react until there's a problem, and people won't be as proactive as they could be, and they'll wait until the first until the first person has given up all their Bitcoin to an avatar.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. So, it, sir, if it's all right, can you uh, give us a little more about the organization that you're heading and the kind of work that you do, and if someone wants to join it or can contribute any open source libraries, or is just looking up to people like you who have experience in these fields, how they can begin in cybersecurity field, because we have a lot of interest, but we are in need of some guidance from an experienced person.
Well, I mean, just so it's clear, my background and my career isn't in cybersecurity. I mean, but being an IT director and having worked in that role, it is something that I always had to be concerned and worried about. Just not my expertise at a detailed level. Um, so the association I started 2 years ago is called IVRHA, International Virtual Reality and Healthcare Association. It is it's really the only organization out there that's focused on helping to grow and build the VR healthcare space. Today, we're now at 100 member organizations, and that includes um, companies like HP. We have teaching hospitals and universities as members, and we have a lot of startups. But it's a great ecosystem. And actually, we have our first company out of India, um, uh, and Cognihab, and I'd be happy to make an introduction, and that could be an interesting discussion as well. I can't remember off the top of my head what city he's in. Um, but yeah, it's a global organization. About 25% of our members are outside the U.S. We have a large number in Europe, and we now have one in South America, Middle East, Australia, India. Um, and I'm personally always looking for interns, remote interns, depending on what they want to do. Because I have a number of content sites, I have writing opportunities if people are looking to develop their skills or want to write an opinion piece about cybersecurity. It doesn't have to just be on VR, AR. On our other websites, we cover tech in general. Um, and then we have companies that if you're looking at careers in cybersecurity and maybe VR AR is an area you want to get into, and you think you can be helpful. Our members are always looking for help. And I think internships are always a great opportunity. I don't know how many of you are about to graduate or you're in your third year, but that nothing. I don't think anything substitutes for on-hands experience. And in IT, I think as many of you know, and I've been doing this for a long time. A lot of it is troubleshooting. Is the term I'm looking for is can't think of it, but iteration and going through a variety of different processes, trial by error. That's what I was sorry, trial by error. I think is a key thing, and is a key process in any kind of software development.
Yeah, that exactly. That's the kind of thing we were looking for. So with that, I will conclude this session. Sir, thank you very much for spending out time and pulling out these precious thoughts. We are really grateful, and this will be live on YouTube. And our first yearites who are currently in class, they couldn't join in. They will be viewing this later on, right? This will also increase the rate of int- interest gathering of students in the cybersecurity field. Uh, with that, I thank you very much. Thank you for being here, and it was a great session. And I look forward to inviting you again, possibly physically to India on our campus.
Well, thank you very much. I've traveled all over the world.
Yeah.
I've been to all over Southeast Asia, China, a lot of Africa. I've never been to India yet.
Oh, yes. We we, we will
It's
be
a
your
lot.
first guest then. We would like to host you. So
Well, thank you for having me.
yeah. All right. So the audience viewing on YouTube, that was it. Thank you for joining in. Nishant, you can end the stream right now. Thank you everyone for watching. And if you have further questions when you watch this stream after it's live, you can just ping your seniors and we will forward those questions to Mr. Fine, and he can respond to them on his own convenience, and we can get you your answers. Thank you.